You've tuned in to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Now here's your host, the book ninja who loves dark chocolate and piles of sand between her toes, Kristen Eckstein, and her partner in success, Shelley Hitz.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Books, Business, and Beyond, the podcast. I am your co-host, Kristen Joy, with the awesome Shelley Hitz. Say hi, Shelley.
Hey, everyone.
And today we have with us special guest Sandra Beckwith, who is amazing at building buzz for your book, because we want to, help you reach as many people as possible with your message that's in your book. And she is one of the top experts I have ever spoken to. And so I reached out to her and I'm like, hey, we really want to have you on our podcast because she's got a wealth of knowledge of things that you can do to promote your book, which will, of course, then promote you as an expert author so that you can build your business, which is, the whole point of going beyond the book to build your business. So, Sandra, welcome, and we're so glad to have you with us today.
Well, thank you so much, and I love that introduction. I'm feeling particularly awesome today.
Thanks. You are particularly awesome. I like to do the candid intros with this is how cool this person is, because it's true. We only have cool people on our show, so you made the cut. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So I want to just get started talking about, what's your background like? What gives you the right to teach people about getting publicity for their book and building the buzz about their book? So tell us a little bit more about how you got started and where you're headed and what you do in your own business.
I love that question, and I love how you say what gives you the right to do this. I think that is an excellent question, and I will try to answer that in as few words as possible so we can cover as much how-to information as possible. I have been a national award-winning publicist for most of my career, and that's quite a while. I was a publicist for probably pretty close to 25 years. And at some point, I sort of burned out on the publicity and the pitching and, getting my clients in the Wall Street Journal and USA Today and on TV shows and all. I just sort of burned out. So I switched over to writing nonfiction. And at that point, one of the first big projects I took on was I got a book contract to write a book about publicity for small businesses. And then after that, got another contract to write a book about publicity for nonprofits. And before that, had also written a humor book about men that I had.
We want to talk about that one later.
Yeah, why can't a man be more like a woman was that title. So I had a lot of experience promoting my first book. During my years as a publicist, I promoted other people's books. Then I had two more business books on publicity topics that I managed to promote well enough to sell out. One of them, the small business book, went through 3 printings before the publisher retired it. So I have all this experience and decided at some point to start sharing this with authors, so to start teaching authors how to publicize, promote, and market their books, because I didn't want to do it for them anymore, just because it's not how I wanted to use my time. Yet I had all of this information that I didn't want to keep to myself either, is maybe the best way to put it. So I started teaching authors how to do it, and it's really been a lot of fun. It's my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome. So that's what's really important about, your favorite thing to do. Where you said that really, it jives with me, because I got out of the done for you industry for the same reason just last year. And, I got really burned out in my travel, which I love to travel and speak all over the world. So I got burned out with that, combined with trying to manage all these projects for authors and having to be basically on call all the time, for when they needed proof sent or whatnot. So it's been really awesome to be able to free myself up, because what I noticed is, probably like you, I now can reach thousands of people with the same message that I was only reaching a handful, maybe a dozen people a year before. Now I'm reaching thousands per year with that same knowledge. So that's just exciting to see you heading in that direction and the awesomeness that you're doing. So to give me one really amazing, awesome building book buzz tip that you've seen work really well for people that you've trained, and even when you were doing done for you for your clients? What is one thing that just, if an author could only choose that one thing, what would it be?
Oh, that is a great question. And I will say that I will give you the one tip that you will get from me that you won't get from somebody else, because other people will say things to you, well, you've got to get reader reviews, and you want good blurbs for your cover. You'll get kind of the same information from lots of different people, but what I have brought to authors that nobody else has brought to them, and that I know for a fact works really, really well, is writing and sending out a specific type of press release that's called a tip sheet. Now, a lot of people know that a press release is a media relations tool that you write and send to media outlets to announce news. A tip sheet uses that same press release format, and it still announces something, but what it does is it offers tips or advice in a bulleted or numbered format, so that you are addressing your reader's pain point in this short little news article, we might call it, that you're sending out to the media. And media outlets love these tip sheets. They love to get their readers and viewers and listeners, pithy how-to information. So a tip sheet works with both fiction and nonfiction. It's a little more intuitive for nonfiction. Just to use one of my own books as an example, one of my books is Publicity for Nonprofits, followed by a long subtitle. And a tip sheet concept I used for that book that got me a lot of play in daily newspapers and in particularly websites read by nonprofit communicators was I wrote a tip sheet about how to write an effective op-ed for your daily newspaper. Because, you think about it, if you're publicizing a nonprofit, nonprofits tend to be built around issues and causes. Nonprofit leaders have messages they want to get out about those issues and causes. And one of the best ways to do that is to write an opinion piece for your daily newspaper or for the, newspapers and markets where you serve. So I did a tip sheet on bullet points on how to write one, what you need to include, what you don't want to include, how you just need to make, get across one key message. And that got huge pickup because it was useful information. Mm-hmm. Now let's shift over to fiction. Let's say, Shelley, let's say that you are going down the path of writing romance novels. Well, maybe I don't know if that's a stretch or not, but let's use our little imaginations here. But if you've written even one romance novel, and if it's well done, and if it is romantic, then you are in a position to give advice to other people, say on Valentine's Day, about how to be romantic, aren't you? So you could send out a tip sheet, 5 romantic ways to say I love you on Valentine's Day. Or let's say you wrote a historical romance novel, with the emphasis on historical romance novels set in, for example, the Hudson River Valley of New York State. You could send out a tip sheet on the 4 most romantic destinations along the Hudson River and get that picked up by local media outlets. And within that tip sheet, you are quoted as an expert, and your book title is the credential that makes you an expert. So it's a subtle promotion tool. It's not 5 reasons to buy my book. It's more like 5 things you will want to know that came out of the research for my book, and then your book title is included in the credential. These things get fabulous pickup, just amazing pickup.
I think that's a great idea because a lot of times fiction authors struggle with what to share in marketing. And with marketing, we often say, tune in to WIIFM, what's in it for me? And
Yeah.
in the tip sheet, you're giving them information that they want in a format that's helpful to them, and yet you're able also to market your book. So I love that you gave two very specific examples that fiction authors can use.
Yeah, and there was a publication that just folded at the end of 2014. It was USA Weekend, which went out. It's like a sister publication to USA Today, and it used to go in the weekend editions of all the Gannett newspapers around the country. USA Weekend, every issue had a tip sheet. More times than not, the sources for the information in those tip sheets was an author. It might be, the best ways to spring clean your house. And then it has this introductory paragraph that describes the problem and that says, well, there are 5 really cool ways to clean your house, according to Kristen Joy, author of, How to Clean Your House in 5 Easy Ways. If you had a house that you don't have anymore.
Anyone who knows me knows cleaning my house is my lowest thing on my priority list.
Well, okay, you're not the author of that book then.
But that's a great example.
But you see how it works. And yes, and that's just one example of one media outlet that loves that concept, or loved it, because they unfortunately aren't publishing anymore.
I remember when I was working as a physical therapist, I had an opportunity to get media exposure for our hospital, and it was during the springtime, and I pitched an idea to our local newspaper about doing a segment about gardening without killing your back. So being able to garden without as much back pain the next day. And I gave very specific tips on how to do it, posture-wise and ergonomics, and then specific tools that they could use in their gardening as well. And it went over really well. So I think your point is really well taken. You can correspond with holidays or with seasons in the year, with different times and current events, and you can pitch these things as tip sheets.
That's the perfect example of how that works. You were basically sending out a tip sheet without knowing that's what it was called. And then, of course, you give that tip sheet more life by putting that content on your website, so it gets found by Google searches. Just as an example, I'm in the northeast of the U.S., where we have truly, truly had a nightmarish winter. I mean, I'm looking out my windows right now, and I got, snow piles or snow. When I go out in my backyard, it's still over my knees. It's ugly. Oh, wow. And I had a couple of ice dams on my roof, and I needed to figure out, how am I going to deal with this? Can I deal with it myself, or do I have to hire somebody? So, I Google, ice dam removal, and then, name of the city kind of thing. And I found several websites of people who would remove the ice dams, but had this amazing how-to content, basically saying, well, you can hire us, but if you don't want to, here's how to do it yourself. So it was incredibly helpful content for the do-it-yourselfer who is not me. I'm not getting out the extension ladder and putting it in, 3 feet of snow and climbing up on the roof. I'm just not going there. But for somebody who can do that, it was incredibly helpful information. It established this company as the expert in that topic. And then, of course, who do you think I called to get the work done? I might add that they didn't call me back because they were too busy. They had so much work that they didn't call me back. But I'm sure that tip information, that advice on their website, contributed to their phone ringing off the hook. Works the same way with authors. If you share what you know, you will give people the faith and the confidence in you that you can write a whole book on that topic that's useful.
That is so awesome. And, I've actually heard the concept of a tip sheet before, and it makes sense to add it to your blog as well. I also would like you to talk a little bit about other ways you can repurpose that same tip sheet into more ways to get publicity. Because blog post is awesome, and one of the things I would do, for example, is do a quick 5-minute YouTube video talking about each of the tips and put it up on YouTube. That's like 5 videos.
That's a great way to do it. I think that makes perfect sense.
So Yeah, any other ideas like that you have? Because I love the idea of sticking with this tip sheet thing and just keep repurposing it over and over and over again, and then you'll write another tip sheet and do it all over again. I mean, why make marketing hard?
You can use it as a blog post, but I wouldn't limit it to a blog post. I would have a press room on your website. As an author, every author should have a press room, and I would put it in the press room up there as a press release so that it gets found in your press room. And that also means that any journalist who finds it knows that it's fair use if it's in a press release format, and they can just copy it and paste it from your website and use it however they might want to use it as a journalist. For a radio station, it could be the springboard for a whole conversation about that topic. I love the YouTube video idea. You can also build a podcast around it. When somebody's, talking to you about being a podcast guest, you can make that the topic. You can also pitch magazine articles built around the topic and newspaper articles around the topic. You can also pitch TV talk show interviews around that topic, particularly if you can demonstrate something, because TV likes visuals, so you've got to have some kind of a visual component that goes along with it. There's just so much more you can do. You can do a guest blog post on your topic for somebody else's blog. You don't want the content to be exactly what's up on your website, because that will hurt you from an SEO standpoint. But you can jumble up the order of the tips and write a new introduction, and bam, you've got a blog post done. So there is a ton you can do with it.
Yeah, and another idea is to take snippets from your tip sheet that you share on social media and drive them back to your blog with that same information.
Exactly.
That is so awesome how you can take just one simple tip sheet press release and repurpose it in so many different ways. And for those of you out there who would like to learn more about Sandra, our special guest for today, you can go to booksbusinessandbeyond.com/buildbookbuzz. And she has for you a top 5 free book promotion resources report where you can get those. It's like a tip sheet. You can get those 5 resources to be able to help you start your book promotion. So Sandra, what's one other tip? We only probably have time for one more to talk about that you would like to give people. We talked about the tip sheet for if you could only do one thing. What if they have time to do something else after repurposing their tip sheet all these different ways?
Oh boy, to build buzz for their books, what is one other thing? I'd like to give out a bit of advice. The one thing that I find that the mistake authors and really others in general make the most when it comes to this sort of thing is I want people to understand that it's not a case of if you build it, they will come. It is not enough to write a book and put it up on Amazon and, Smashwords, BookBaby, whatever you use. It is not enough to write a book, put it up there, and move on to your next book. You have to work hard to let people know about it. You don't want to be obnoxious. You don't want every Facebook post to be a link to your Amazon sales page, but you do want to be working to get the word out. And one of the best things to do really is to write an effective email announcement and send it to if you're advanced in this area, you've probably got an email list that you've been building from your website. Having a template on your website, you've been collecting email addresses and you've got a book specific email list. But if you aren't that advanced with your marketing and haven't done that yet, you've probably got a pretty good size email address book, in your computer. So write an announcement that your book is now available for purchase. Send that out to everybody on your list. And remember when you do it, not to make your announcement of your book's publication all about you and all about the book. You don't really want it to be about you at all. You do want it to be, some of it to be about the book, but what you really want to do is focus on why the recipient of that message will want to read that book. What will it do for them? How will it improve their life? If it's fiction, how will it entertain or amuse or intrigue them or take them away from, their humdrum everyday life? What is in it for the book reader? That's what you want to emphasize in your book announcement email message. I get for some reason, I get a lot of these in my inbox, and they tend to, and you two probably have seen this too, they tend to start out with, "My book is finally published. I have achieved my lifelong dream. I've always wanted to write a book, and now I've finally done it. It is so awesome. Please help me become a bestseller. I really want to become a bestseller. Buy my book. Here's where you can buy my book. Oh, did I mention you can buy my book? You can buy it here." And, and a lot of them do really read like that. A better way to approach it is, good news, my book, insert title here, is now available for purchase. I listened very carefully to people like you. As I wrote the book, I knew that you wanted X, and I gave you X. You told me you wanted Y. I gave you Y. The end result will help you do this, that, and the other thing. Here's the link where you could buy it. I would appreciate it very much if you would forward this message to any friends you have who you think might be interested in this book. Let me know if you have any questions, and, please share in my excitement. Just focus on what's in it for the reader and not about your understandable joy that your book is really done. That is exciting, and you have a right to be excited and a reason to be excited. But when you're trying to interest other people in learning more about your book and maybe buying and reading it, you really want to focus on them and what your book will do for them. So does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense to me, and I think that about wraps it up for today. That was excellent information. Thank you so much, Sandra. I know that our people can learn a lot more from you, so if you'd like to learn more from Sandra, go to booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Build Book Buzz, or click the link in the description below this podcast. And we look forward to seeing you next week on our next podcast. So again, go to booksbusinessandbeyond.com/Build Book Buzz. And remember to subscribe to our podcast everywhere it's at. You can go to booksbusinessandbeyond.com, our hub website, to see where you can go subscribe. Please leave us reviews, and we will see you next week.
You've been listening to Books, Business, and Beyond, the show that teaches you how to maximize your income from your book to create the lifestyle you want. Visit your host, Kristen the Book Ninja Eckstein, and her partner in success, Shelley Hitz, at booksbusinessandbeyond.com and grab your free gift today. Tune in next time for more ways to diversify your income beyond the book, and don't miss a single episode. Subscribe to this podcast on iTunes.